In this video tutorial, I will go over everything you need to know in order to use and customize and edit this template. Here I am inside the project file, and just to let you know, I've added these extra files just to help demonstrate how some of the compositions work and whatnot. In order to import anything, you can double click inside this project window over here. So if you double click here, this will bring up a folder destination window, and you can simply double click to import whatever video media you might have, like so. I'll go ahead and delete this. So this is how you import files. Alright, so by default the project starts up with the opener render, and this is the most rather complex, or rather has the most customization options. So I will start off with the opener render composition. So inside this render folder, you can see here are all of the compositions, and inside opener, if you go to your render folder and double click opener render, this will pop up this composition. Let's take a look at the edit folder. Alright, and here you will have all of the holder compositions that you will have to open up and replace. So for example, this logo here, let's set this resolution maybe to half, just so it loads a little faster. Let's choose a different frame here. So this logo right here, you can change by accessing opener logo intro. Alright, and if I drop another, my new logo here inside this composition, like so, go ahead and press S for scale while having the layer selected, and let's decrease the scale a bit, and you can go ahead and delete the previous logo that was there. If I go back now to open a render, you can see it updated, and everything works as it should. Let's move forward a few frames to the next scene. Alright, so here we have the first media holder, so this will be opener media 1. Go ahead and delete this media pre-comp layer. Simply drag your new file media inside the composition. Go ahead and rescale this and make adjustments as necessary. If you go back, now you can see it updated here, and you do the same for the second media holder, which is opener media _2. Delete the media pre-comp and import your new file here, and you can see this I have to scale up a bit, and if I go back here you can see it. Let's move forward a few frames to the next angle, and here we have opener media left and media right. So media left will be the logo on the left. If I change this, do the same process, go back, and you can see it updated here. Of course, you can use whatever media you want. Just make sure that whatever you're using for these holders has alpha transparency. You can see if I enable the transparency grid, you can see that there's actually no background for my layers. You can also use player images, like so. And just to demonstrate this, I'm just gonna rescale and adjust the positioning here. And if I go back, you can have a player on this side and a different player on the other side. So just to give you an example, let's take a look at the next frame here. Alright, and I'll go over colors just a second. This text will be opener text _end. You can change the text here. You can either double click to edit this text layer, like so, or you can create a new text layer entirely. It's completely up to you. You can also use logos in here as well. So if I go back, you can see this updated, and I can even use a logo here as well, and it works just the same. And moving forward a few frames, we have our end logo, which is opener logo end. Alright, change this, same thing, and then going back you can see this updated. So pretty much all of these segments follow the same structure. So for example, let's take a look at double bumper. You access the render by double clicking this composition inside the render folder. You can see that this lasts up to 10 seconds. Alright, and in order to change this, you do the same thing, go inside the holder comp, replace the logo, and if you go back, you can see it updated, and just make sure that everything looks as you want it. And all of these follow exactly the same structure. Let's take a look at player, and you should get the idea. So open up the render for the player. Alright, you can see here that there's a media holder and looks really ugly, and also the player, let's stop to 1 minute. So if you go inside edit, you have media and text. So media will be the player showcased here, and the text will be here. So for example, player media, I can now drop my player in here. And especially for the player composition, it's very important that you do have transparency. So in case your player image comes with a black background and doesn't have transparency, you can go ahead and select your pen tool, and you can create a mask around your player. Alright, so hopefully you get the idea. Let's maybe readjust this a bit, and let's go back inside player comp. Alright, here it is. And the other thing, the player text. Here you can see that there's more than one layer, so you can go ahead and completely delete these and create your own custom layout, or you can simply double click each of these layers and, for example, add your stats like so by double clicking and editing, and then player name. You can add your own name. And let's see, there's a shape layer here, so you can also offset this line. And then I also added a image with the logo here. Alright, and I've turned the opacity, so press T for opacity, and I've turned the opacity down to 35%. Alright, so that's pretty much it for the edit folder. So all of these follow the same structure. And let's talk about the colors now. Let me just close off some of these compositions. Alright, so going back to the opener. Alright, so inside the render, the opener render, you will see that there is a layer called color, and here we have all of the options that you can change. And if you don't have this effects control popping up, you can just press F3 and this will bring it up. Alright, let's take a look at the first few frames here, and let's change the geometry color. So the geometry color you can change by offsetting this angle here. So you can kind of see how this works as I scrub through the angle, different angles here. You can also increase the desaturation of the geometry, so you can make this more black and white. So this goes up all the way to 100, and this will make it completely black and white. Or you can just leave it at 50, and you just have a slight desaturation and not have the colors as bright. Lights will be the first and the main color, sort of that gives the overall look. And you can see how this changes. Right, so let's just go with the blue. Intro logo, you can also change the color for this individually as well, so you can have a different color here, or you can use the same color if I wanted to go with the blue, or you can make it green. Just a little bit more control like that. Let's move forward. You can also affect these trails here for the arrow element. Let me just grab a frame here. Alright, so you can affect the trails here, and also the same color applies to this second arrow element, and also it applies to the final arrow element, which is here in at the end. Alright, so if I change the color for the trails, you can see this changing here. Let's take a look at logo background. Let's find the correct frame. Alright, so logo background will be this background here for the screens. Change the color for that. Alright, logo outline. You can see here. So you can see what changes here in the viewport. Let's see background flare. You can change the flares here in the background as well. So you can see how this changes up the scene. Alright, sparks will be here at the end. You can choose a different color for the sparks. So you generally, I added as many options as possible to give you complete control over the look of the scene. Let's see ending text. Change that as well. Alright, and ending logo will be the outline of the logo right over here. So you can see what how this changes. Alright, so the same with all of the other compositions inside the render comp. So for a player, for example, all of the settings are more or less kind of the same. Let's choose a frame here. So there's a color layer, just the same as opener render, and you can change the geometry color. Alright, you can change the geometry desaturation, you can change the lights, and you can change the player lights. So these are the lights in front of the composition. And player edge, you can also change that. Alright, and you can also change the text background. So a lot of control. And pretty much all of these are exactly the same. Let's take a look at background. So background doesn't have an edit folder, it's just simply the render. And this is a 10 seconds loopable background. So if you want to make it loop, you will have to render the whole 10 seconds composition. There's a colors layer here, and you can change the first color. Alright, and the second one for the trails. So you kind of get the idea. Let's just take a look at one more. So render, text transition render, go inside the text transition, composition, there's a color layer, change the color of the geometry, desaturation, change the color of the lights, and then the color for the text. And all of the compositions work exactly the same way. So when you're done editing any of these compositions, you can then go to composition, go to pre-render, and inside custom AV here you can change the settings. You can go with format AV, and just don't forget to check RGB plus alpha, because a lot of these compositions have alpha transitions, so they have transparency which you can overlay seamlessly over your project. Hit OK, then hit render, and you're done. So thanks for watching. If you have any questions, please send me a mail and I will get back to you as soon as possible. Thanks.